Revealed, 10 spine-chilling jobs that expose sinister secrets and haunted experiences. Lily's hands were calloused from the relentless scrub of floor mops as she stepped into the bowels of the abandoned community hospital, the air thick with decades of dust and dread. Every night as the fluorescent lights flickered across the peeling paint, an unsettling whisper seemed to guide her through the dimly lit hallways. They spoke of malpractice and loss, intertwining tales that formed an invisible web around her. Alone in this crumbling world of forgotten hopes and faded memories, fear settled in her gut, a dark companion on her night shift. The tales from the shadows tugged at her sanity. Was it just her imagination, or was she really hearing them? That night, while she rummaged through an old storage room, something caught her eye. A dusty envelope lay half-hidden under a pile of debris. Within, she discovered photographs of an enigmatic doctor who had vanished decades ago. The images captured him mid-smile, a caring facade hiding sinister secrets. Handwritten notes accompanied the photos, detailing incomprehensible experiments performed on unsuspecting patients. Heart racing, dread clutched at her throat. The doctor's eyes seemed to follow her, pulling her into the darkness. "This is just old junk," she murmured to herself, but as she left the room, the suffocating atmosphere shifted. The hairs on her arms stood, and an overwhelming chill rushed through her. She swore she could feel unseen eyes watching her, weaving fears into her mind, pushing against the edges of her sanity. Returning home, she found her children whispering in the unsettling stillness. They giggled at nothing, their innocent expressions warped by fear. "Mommy, the man in the walls is playing with us," they exclaimed. Panic swept through her. "What man?" She shook her head, desperate to dismiss their words as mere childhood fantasies. But as they described the figure lurking in the corners, her heart hammered in her chest, pushing away her exhaustion. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to shield her children from the rising darkness, Lily began her own investigation. She dug deeper into her neighbor's history, uncovering unsettling connections between him and the hospital. The foundation of their community trembled with secrets, rotting beneath the surface like the crumbling walls of the hospital. The whispers grew louder, intertwining with her thoughts, warning her of a malignant understanding that engulfed both her family and the community. Attempting to seek help, Lily approached the local police, her heart ablaze with trepidation. But they met her fears with indifference, their dismissive smiles layering her anxiety with ever-deepening dread. She realized the truth was entangled in a dark web of lies, infecting those who were supposed to protect her. Every moment felt like a countdown as she connected the dots, surrendering to the urgency pulsing through her veins. She sensed the walls of her reality starting to crack, the supernatural mingling with the horrors of her world. Shadows closed in, their intentions unclear but palpable as she raced against time. Just when she began to weave the final thread of this terror, a deafening crash shattered the silence of her home. The darkness surged, and a silhouette appeared in the window, a ghostly figure, perhaps, or something far worse awaited her, lurking in the shadows of a haunting past she had yet to face. Lily's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't move. The figure outside loomed larger as the moonlight cast an eerie glow across its form. It was there, inches from her, its presence a heavy weight pressing down on the air around her. The laughter of her children faded to a haunting echo, replaced by an oppressive silence thickening the room. "Mommy, the man in the walls," echoed in her mind. Had he come for them? With trembling hands, she pushed the curtains aside just enough to get a glimpse of who or what stood at her window. But the silhouette melted into the shadows before she could identify it, like smoke dissipating into the corners of her home. Fear became an icy grip around her throat. She backed away, struck by the chill clutching at her arms, and moved toward her children, their innocent faces twisted with a terror she couldn't understand. She crouched down to their level, her voice a hoarse whisper. "What do you mean, the man in the walls?" "He plays games with us, Mommy. He wants to show you," her youngest muttered, a hint of excitement tainted by fear. Lily turned her gaze toward the hallway. Something was lurking, she was sure of it. The old house creaked inside as if answering her unspoken questions. With a sudden resolve, she grabbed her purse, feeling for her phone. The battery was dead, a mirror of her fading hope. "I need to check the basement," she said, steadying herself. The children's excitement shifted to fear, and their little hands clung to her legs. "Don't go down there, Mommy. He doesn't like it," they pleaded, their eyes wide with terror. "Stay here. I'll be right back," she assured them, though doubt twisted in her gut. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to descend the narrow staircase, the steps groaning under her weight. Each creak felt like a warning that hung in the stillness. Flickering lights, remnants of a past long forgotten, flickered above her head, illuminating the damp walls of the basement. And then she saw a door, slightly ajar, leading into a darkness she could not fathom. Her breath hitching in her throat, she stepped closer, the cold air swirling around her as if something was alive in the shadows. She hesitated, fingers brushing against the door, its surface rough and splintered. The whispers came back, curling around her thoughts, urgent, pleading, foreboding. She gritted her teeth and swung the door wider, the old hinges protesting, revealing a room swallowed by darkness. As her eyes adjusted, shapes emerged, bizarre and unsettling, discarded medical equipment, strange jars lined with unknown contents. It smelled of decay. Suddenly, a soft, almost musical sound echoed from deep within the room, a childlike giggle that pierced through the oppressive silence. It felt wrong. Lily's heart raced. Was it her children playing back there? Or was it the man in the walls? "Mommy!" The voice called again, but it wasn't her children. It was something else, something sinister that had woven itself into the fabric of her home. The door slammed behind her, plunging her into blackness. Panic clawed at her throat as she scrambled for the handle. It wouldn't budge. The giggles turned into laughter, echoing off the walls, swirling like a storm around her. Trapped, heart racing wildly, Lily felt the weight of unseen eyes landing on her from every corner. Chaos exploded in her mind, but in that moment, all she could do was scream. "Mommy?" Both her cries and the children's voices echoed in a terrifying harmony. What was happening? What had she awoken? In the chaos, a new voice emerged, a low whisper that slithered into her ears, promising secrets. "Let me show you," it beckoned, and fear and curiosity mixed into a heady cocktail, blurring the lines of reality. She had to make a choice. Would she remain in the dark or dare to uncover the truth about the man in the walls? But before she could decide, a shadow detached itself from the blackness, coming closer and closer. "What do you want?" She barely managed to croak, her voice trembling. The shadow stopped, and a chilling silence enveloped them as it whispered. "Back, everything." Then everything turned black. Lily gasped as the darkness closed in around her, a suffocating shroud swallowing every ounce of light. Her breath quickened, heart racing to a tempo of primal terror. The whisper, a seductive echo, hung heavy in the air, taunting her with its unsettling promise. She tried to inch backward, but her feet felt rooted to the spot, as if the very floor beneath her had come alive. "Mommy!" The children's cries, distant and faded now, mingled with the laughter that spiraled around her, clawing at her sanity. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if blocking out the sinister funhouse of shadows would somehow pull her back to safety. "Come play with me," the voice coaxed, now sweet and tender, a horrifying contradiction to the reality surrounding her. Lily forced her eyelids apart, fighting against the urge to surrender to the darkness. The shape was real, moving with a slow certainty that made her skin crawl. From the depths of the blackness, it slinked forward, each deliberate movement provoking the darkness to crackle and hum with energy. "Who are you?" she choked out, her voice cracking. "I'm your friend," the shadow replied, each word dripping with an uncanny familiarity. "Your children like to play with me. They come here often." Desperation surged through her veins. "No. I need to get to them." "Where are they?" The laughter pierced the air again, now mocking, high-pitched and joyous, as if the shadows behind her were relishing her fear. "Don't worry, they are safe for now. You have to play the game, Lily. Just like they do." Suddenly, a flicker of recognition struck her. The words seemed like echoes from a long-forgotten nightmare. "The wall, it was you. You've been here all along. Guilty as charged." It chuckled, the voice slithering like smoke around her.
You chose this house, you brought me back when you brought them here. You unleashed the game. Panic consumed Lily, a tidal wave of uncertainty and dread.
Memories began flooding back, her children's laughter creeping through the hallways, the way they seemed to whisper to thin air, the times they claimed to see things that weren't there.
What do you want from me?
She gasped. The shadow drew closer, its form shifting, morphing into shapes that made her skin crawl, twitching limbs, silent screams.
To play, of course. Isn't that what you want, too?
You've been longing for something beyond the ordinary.
Isn't a time you let go? No. Please.
The need to protect her children ignited a surge of adrenaline. With a fierce determination, she grabbed the cold iron railing behind her, her fingers trembling but resolute.
I won't let you take them.
The laughter stopped abruptly, leaving a void that echoed in the silence. The shadow hung in the stillness, contemplating her challenge.
Do you really think you can break the game? The walls, remember, they hold many secrets.
With those words, the air grew thick. She turned, blinded by sheer desperation. She couldn't stay trapped in this nightmare.
I need to find them.
She screamed into the darkness, feeling an unseen force pressing down, a reminder of its power over her. But something snapped inside her. Screeching with all her might, she lunged toward the door, her heart storming in rhythm with the approaching shadow.
Would she find her children in the darkness or become another player in their twisted game?
Let me show you the truth, the voice whispered one last time, as she flung open the door only to stand frozen, the threshold revealing a horrifying revelation.
What have you unleashed?
The question lingered in the air, heavy with dread, as she stared into the blindingly white light beyond the door, knowing something unthinkable awaited her.
Was this the end of her fight or just the beginning?
Lily stumbled into the light, her mind swirling. The brightness felt like a shock to her senses, overwhelming and blinding. But as her eyes adjusted, the horror of her surroundings replaced the initial confusion. She stood at the edge of a vast, void-like expanse, a marionette stage under a garish spotlight. The walls rang with cheers, applause, but there were no spectators in sight, only a grotesque expanse that twisted her stomach. In the center of the stage, her children were there, their faces illuminated by that brutal light. They looked ethereal, sweetly smiling but vacant, as though they were part of a twisted play.
Mommy! Join us, they echoed, their voices hollow and distant. Lily's heart dropped as they reached toward her, hands outstretched, fingers twitching in eager anticipation.
No, 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 she whispered, shaking her head as fear coiled tighter around her. These were not her children, not really. Somewhere deep inside her, she felt it, the cold specter of the entity that had been waiting for her, feeding on the innocence of her girls. She had to tear them away from this nightmare. Step into the light, Lily, the seductive voice crooned from the shadows, drenched in mockery.
You see how they play so beautifully?
All you have to do is play with them. She backed away, feeling the cold iron railing beneath her fingers, grounding her.
Get away from them!
She screamed, but it came out as more of a plea than a command. The shadows writhed, curling around her ankles like tendrils, threatening to pull her down into the abyss. The children giggled again, their laughter hollow yet melodic. It rang like wind chimes caught in a storm.
Mommy, play! Mommy, play!
The words bounced off the invisible walls, echoing back to her with an unsettling rhythm. Summoning every ounce of strength, she pushed herself forward towards them.
I'm coming, I promise.
The ground beneath her shifted with each step, unfurling and contracting, as though it were breathing. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced it down. She was stronger than this. Closer now, she could see their faces clearer, eyes too wide, smiles too wide.
What did you do to them?
She shouted, feeling anger flare.
They're not yours, they're mine.
Oh, but you and I both know that's not true.
The shadow hissed. You pushed them away, Lily.
You kept wanting more, seeking thrill beyond your mundane life, and now you've brought them to me, a wonderful playground of dreams and fears. That word broke through her terror, perhaps the only word she needed to shake her from the clutches of despair.
Dreams.
She remembered her laughter, the joy of simply being a mother. The shadow was toying with them, distorting those dreams. She needed clarity, needed focus to navigate the maze of distractions before her.
Stop! She screamed, finally finding her voice. I won't let you trap them.
The air crackled again, the darkness swirling as the shadow roared with laughter, vibrating the very ground beneath her feet.
Do you dare defy me? The game is already set.
They think you're here to play, just like they are. The echo of their laughter danced around her, taunting and sinister.
There wasn't much time.
She had to reach her children. With a reckless determination, she lunged forward, the stage transforming under her, shadows stretching and pulling at her resolve as she reached for her daughters, feeling the heat of the light that pulsed perilously close. Just as she grabbed their hands, a piercing scream shattered the air, one that wasn't hers or theirs. It was the darkness itself, recoiling as if something essential had just been broken.
What's happening?
She gasped, eyes darting around, but a new voice emerged, one deeper, reverberating through her very bones. The real game begins now, and you have awakened that which slumbered.
Lily's heart plummeted.
In a single breath, she understood. She had unleashed not just her children, but something ancient, something waiting to break free.
What had she truly awakened?
With dread swirling around her, she braced for the consequences yet to come. The ground trembled beneath Lily's feet, a low rumble that merged with the laughter of her daughters, transforming it into something far more sinister.
Mommy, come play.
The words dripped with ghastly sweetness, each syllable twisting painfully in her ears. She felt the shadows swirl, pressing against her, suffocating her resolve.
There it was again, that mocking voice. You know the truth now. The game cannot end until it is played to the fullest.
Around her, the stage warped and rippled like water, casting grotesque reflections of herself and her children. She squeezed their hands tighter, feeling their warmth, but that warmth was slipping away, evaporating like mist under the dawn. She knew she needed to break free from this nightmare.
Help me!
Lily screamed, desperation clawing at the back of her throat.
The shadows thickened, responding to her fear.
Dark tendrils snaked towards her, whispering promises of submission and safety if she'd only let go.
They're not real. You have to wake up.
As if in direct defiance, the figures of her children twisted into distorted parodies of themselves, elongated limbs, far too many fingers, eyes drilling into her, demanding.
Don't you want to play, Mommy?
We always wanted you to play with us. Their voices faded into shrillness, blending with an unsettling chorus that shattered her heart. This couldn't be it. She wouldn't succumb to this dark enchantment. Rallying her breath, she pulled her daughters closer. They felt lighter, slipping through her fingers as the shadows tugged and clawed at the edges of her sanity.
No! Not again!
She shouted, and with each word, she felt a flicker of the woman she used to be, the mother fabricating joy, lessons, and love. She focused on that flicker.
You're real. You're mine.
The conviction empowered her. The distortion in their eyes momentarily waned, revealing brief glimmers of the innocent girls she had loved, but the shadows roared, furious at her defiance.
Hold them tight, or you will lose them again. Their shrieks crescendoed, sharp like blades, slicing through her determination.
The fabric of the stage morphed, spiraling rapidly as if time was being crumpled. A whirlwind of nightmares surrounded her, clawing at her mind.
Lily stumbled back, the edges of the world blurring into chaos.
Face the inevitable, the deep voice echoed.
You've dared challenge my dominion over dreams. Choose, save them or let them slip into the void.
Panic flooded her veins, turning her breath shallow.
What choice was there? Could she bring them back from this abyss or tear herself apart trying?
The auras of her girls flickered urgent, pleading.
Mommy, come. We'll be together again. Just play.
The stage warped, revealing echoes of past moments, her daughters laughing at the park, splashing in puddles, snuggled close during story time.
Each warmth ignited the shadows, feeding their wrath. They can't have that. The words came off in a rancid hiss. No! Lily screamed, dragging all her memories into focus. I want them back. No fear. No shadows.
As if responding to her powerful intent, the ground surged once more, erupting with fissures. A blinding radiant light began spilling from beneath, threatening to engulf the malevolence threatening to devour her family. Then, the shadows shrieked, their hands clawing wildly to grasp her ankles, pulling fiercely.
You cannot escape.
She felt the energies clash, light resting against dark, each moment cracking her resolve.
She had to fight.
I won't let you take my children. The familiar warmth coursed through her, wrapping around her daughters, drawing strength from the light, but just as hope surged, the ground beneath twisted violently, splitting further, a void yawning wide, revealing depths of chaos beneath. The entities writhed within, mocking her efforts.
Do you still think this is your choice?
The deeper voice echoed again, now tinged with violent fury.
What have you truly awakened?
Before Lily could respond, the earth shook violently and her surroundings shattered into fragments, plunging her into a darkness that threatened to consume the last flicker of light within her. As she spiraled down, she caught one last glimpse of her children reaching out, their voices drowned in the cacophony of shadows.
What darkness awaited in the depths? Would she find her way back to them, or was this truly the end?
And in the chaos, she realized, in this game, every awakening came with a price.
What would she lose to save them?
Lily tumbled through the suffocating blackness, deeper and deeper, her heart pounding like a war drum. There was no ground beneath her, just the endless void pulling her down, stretching her muscles taut with dread. Panic clawed at her throat as visions of her daughters faded into memory, their laughter twisted like a knife, reputations of innocence seeping into the shadowy abyss around her. As she fell, thoughts raced through her mind.
What had she done wrong? What choices had led her to this treacherous pit?
She braced herself for impact, but it never came.
Instead, out of the darkness, flickering lights began to surface, bright points gleaming like stars in an unending night.
Somehow, those lights felt familiar, a string pulling her towards something she feared yet yearned for. Mommy, the breathy whisper was bone-chilling.
Lily twisted mid-air, her body suspended in the darkness.
The voice echoed as shadows navigated the space around her. Mommy, we're here. The lights intensified, converging into a singular glow. It pulled her in, enveloping her in warmth.
But beneath that warmth lurked a sinister chill, digging claws into her sanity.
She landed, though she felt ungrounded, surrounded by soft whispers that danced around her ears.
Let us out, let us play. The twisted shadows morphed into grotesque images of her daughters, faces pulled in unrecognizable forms.
Their jaws opened wide in silent screams, or laughter, she couldn't tell.
The lights began to flicker erratically, and with each heartbeat, they pulsated, infusing the air with an eerie vibration that stung her skin. Give them to us.
They chorused, words dripping with honeyed malice that left a sickly taste on her tongue.
What are you willing to sacrifice, Lily?
Lily balled her fists and screamed back, "You're not my children.
You're monsters."
But as the words escaped her lips, her resolve trembled, the darkness curling tighter around her. Suddenly, she was pulled into a memory, a hazy sunlight day at the park with her girls, their faces streaked with joy, laughter echoing in the open air. But it twisted like a vine, morphing into the sinister reality before her, the laughter constricted into that dreadful chorus.
Mommy, it's time to play.
The ground shattered with a deafening crack, sending splinters of darkness racing towards her, seeking to reclaim her. She fought against them, grasping at the moments that still held fabric of joy.
Holding on to fragments of joy, it felt like holding on to knives. I won't lose you. Save us.
The shadowy figures advanced, their forms melding into one indistinguishable mass, a living nightmare, a hive of twisted humanity. The ground beneath started collapsing inward, devouring everything with dreadful hunger. In that very moment, she felt something in her chest unravel, a feral desperation igniting within.
I'm your mother. You are my girls. I can bring you back.
Her voice echoed in the chaos, colliding with growing dread. The shadows recoiled for a fraction of a moment, uncertainty swirling within them.
Prove it.
The voice of the shadows was furious, resounding against the blackness, shaking the very core of her being. Desperation morphed into fury.
I will save you.
She yelled, and in that instant, the memories poured into her, a rush of love, laughter, all entwined in sunlit days. She concentrated with every ounce of will. Suddenly, a blinding light shot out from Lily, a beacon in the darkness. The shadows screamed, twisted, and thrashed as the brilliance began to consume them.
Mommy, wake up.
And just like that, Lily's eyes shot open, the world around her spinning wildly.
She gasped for breath, pulling herself upright.
But this was no comforting reality, it was a different kind of nightmare. Strange figures moved around her, clad in dark robes, each with stares that felt untouched by humanity. A haunting silence enveloped the room.
She was not alone. They knew what had happened.
"You've awakened the truth," one of them whispered, their voice a chilling slither, and at that moment, Lily understood.
The game had only just begun. What did they know? What horrors awaited her? Would she have to play again, or would she finally break free? Lily's breaths quickened as she scanned the dimly lit chamber.
The air was thick with an oppressive stillness that felt suffocating, making her skin crawl. The figures in dark robes closed in, their faces shrouded in shadows, void of any warmth. She sensed a power radiating from them, charged with the weight of secrets.
What truth? She stammered, trying to sound defiant.
But the fear clawed at her throat, tightening like a noose. The robed figure who had spoken stepped closer. It towered over her, blocking the flickering light from an unseen source. "You've opened a door that should have remained sealed. The cost of awakening is high." Its voice was cold, threading through her veins like ice.
"Where are my daughters?"
she demanded, her voice trembling.
"What have you done? Tell me."
Suddenly, the walls of the chamber vibrated, the shadows quivering at her words. A cacophony of whispers erupted, each one pulling her deeper into despair.
"Lost, forgotten, sacrificed," they echoed, morbid strands weaving through her thoughts. "Enough!"
she cried, clutching her head as her memories began to flicker again, their warm laughter, the soft embrace of their small hands in hers as they spun around in joy. The figure chuckled, a hollow sound that resonated with malice. "Your forgetfulness fuels our power.
It feeds the void."
Lily felt bile rise in her throat, a tempest of wretched emotions swirling.
"What have I forgotten? What do you want from me?"
"Your sacrifice, of course," it replied matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather.
"You must prove your love. Only then will your daughters be restored." Panic consumed her. "I won't sacrifice anything.
They're my flesh and blood."
"We'll see," the figure said, extending a hand.
In that instant, a flash of light illuminated the chamber, revealing walls covered in dark stains, patterns swirling like the screams of those who had come before her. "Choose wisely," it said, retreating into the shadows as the whispers grew louder, more frenzied. "Their freedom lies in your hands, but it'll cost you." The ground shook beneath her, and she stumbled back, gasping.
Fear surged like electricity, igniting every nerve.
Shadows danced along the walls, warping and twisting as they rose, creating grotesque images that gnawed at her sanity, her daughters laughing, then screaming, fading into blank expressions.
"No!"
She turned away, but the whispers clawed at her ears.
"Let us play! Let us play!"
Suddenly, the room fell silent. A stillness wrapped around her, a deceptive calm that made her heart thud louder, each beat echoing in the silence. She felt trapped in the eye of a storm, the calm before chaos erupted.
"I won't play your game,"
she shouted, her voice wavering but fueled by the need to fight.
"I will not lose them."
Just then, the floor beneath her ripped open, revealing an abyss that thrummed with an insatiable hunger.
Lily stumbled back, her resolve waning. What if they really needed her?
"No," she shouted again, grounding herself.
She couldn't surrender to despair. Yet somewhere deep within, a lingering doubt took root. What if the truth she uncovered demanded more than she was willing to give?
And in that moment of uncertainty, the lights flickered once more, casting shadows that whispered secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Suddenly, a glimmer caught her eye in the corner of the room. A small, flickering flame danced on a pedestal, glowing with an almost holy light, but what would it take to reach it? As she took a step toward it, a low growl erupted from the shadows.
The figures shifted, their eyes gleaming with anticipation.
What would she risk to save her daughters? The flame beckoned, and the abyss beneath her gaped wider, ready to swallow her whole.
Would she dare to plunge deeper into this darkness to grasp the light, or would she lose herself along the way? Lily's heart thundered in her chest as she approached the flame. It flickered like a heartbeat, its warm glow pulsating in stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded her.
But with each step, the the shadows writhed and hissed, coiling around her ankles like cold, snake-like fingers trying to pull her back. Don't get too close," a voice whispered, almost too soft to hear.
It wasn't T, the figure in the robe.
It felt familiar, comforting, yet strained. A flash of memory, a child's voice caressed her mind.
"Mommy."
But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by the hollow laughter that echoed off the walls.
"Let us play."
They taunted again, a haunting mantra that chilled her bones.
The abyss below throbbed, the dark mouth grinning wider as if beckoning her into its depths.
The choice loomed heavy over her, suffocating. Freedom for her daughters or her soul. Just a little closer, the shadows cooed, their collective breath hot against her skin. Instinct screamed for her to turn away and flee, but the flame tugged at something deeper within her, a flicker of hope born from desperation. She clenched her fists, tasting the salt of tears mixing with the bile in her throat. "Step into the light, and all will be forgiven," the figure from before echoed, its voice dripping with mockery. She paused, guilt and longing twisting inside her. How many times had she chosen others over her flesh and blood? How often had her career and duties overshadowed the simple act of being a mother? The memories came rushing back, her daughters' small faces illuminated by joy, overshadowed by her absence. "No more," she whispered fiercely to herself. "I'll reclaim my daughters." With newfound resolve, she took a step toward the flame. Instantly, the shadows shrieked, their cries sharp as knives. They lunged at her, shapes twisting and merging, trying to reclaim their hold. Lily felt icy fingers clutch at her throat, pulling her back. "Your pain is just beginning." The growl reverberated through her entire being, and she stumbled. Fear threatened to break her resolve, to send her spiraling down into hopelessness, but as she grasped for the light, something shifted. The flame flickered more vigorously, growing in intensity, as if recognizing her struggle. "Choose," it murmured, swaying slightly as if alive. Lily felt a pulsating energy radiating from it, pulling at the very essence of her being. Drawing strength from the warmth, she grasped the pedestal, her fingers curling around its base. The growl morphed into a chorus of anguished wails from the shadows. They surged, angry and wild, as the walls began to cave inward, pulsating with the rhythm of her heartbeat. "Enough!" she cried, defiance rippling through her voice. She felt the flame burn hotter, fueled by her desperation and anger. The figures recoiled, their forms quivering with rage. Without hesitation, she lifted the flame from the pedestal, its power igniting her spirit like dynamite. "I will save them!" she shouted. The moment she did, the ground beneath her quaked violently. The abyss twisted and roared, eager to reclaim what had once been its prey. Shadows erupted from the walls, grasping for her, clawing at her clothes. "Bring her back!" they hissed. "You can't escape the truth." Lily's vision blurred as sweat rolled down her back. She felt the tendrils of darkness curling around her limbs, attempting to drag her down. Her breath quickened, each gasp filled with smoke and fear. But deep within, the burning flame pulsed with a fierce brilliance, a guiding star amid the chaos. She ran toward the nearest wall, shoving the flame against it. The moment it connected, a blinding light erupted, forcing the shadows to screech in agony. What she felt next was overwhelming, a rush of energy bringing memories and visions flooding back. She saw her daughters, their faces joyous and full. But another image merged, the darkness creeping behind them, lurking, waiting. "No!" she screamed, the light expanding, pushing back against the shadows, but she felt a piece of herself being pulled into the darkness. "Stay strong, her daughters." Laughter echoed, forming a shield around her heart. Would the light be enough to break the bonds holding her daughters captive? Would her sacrifice mean salvation or doom? As the collapse of shadows spun around her, she realized the truth was still hidden, and the cost was still to be revealed. Then came a sudden, rattling crash, and walls cracked, spilling inky blackness that surged forward, swallowing the glimmer of the flame. Would she hold on, or lose everything? The darkness swallowed the flame, and Lily felt the light ripping from her grasp, the warmth departing like a lover leaving too soon. Panic surged within her, a tidal wave of fear crashing over her resolve. With trembling hands, she reached out, clawing at the air where the glow had been, but all that met her fingertips was cold emptiness. "Now it's just you and us," the shadows whispered, their voices a serpentine chorus, coiling around her body.
No light to save you. You belong to us now. Desperation clawed at her throat.
She had felt the spark of hope, the glimmer of potential victory, only to have it snatched away.
Shadows crept closer, nauseating and slick, their forms ever-changing, shifting from familiar faces to grotesque mockeries.
Lily squeezed her eyes shut, wishing she could block out the horror. But the visions invaded her mind, her daughters, their faces twisted in anguish.
"Mommy!"
One of them screamed, the sound fragmented by the echoing walls. The plea sliced through her heart, a visceral reminder of her commitment. They needed her, and she couldn't waver now. Taking a deep breath, Lily forced her eyes open. Around her, the shadows writhed with impatience, their hissing laughter rising to a frenzied crescendo. "Join us," they beckoned, their cold fingers brushing against her skin like icy tendrils.
"Do you want to see your daughters again?
Yield to us, and you shall be rewarded." She felt their cool breath against her face, the overpowering urge to give in.
Maybe it would be easier.
But the thought of her daughters' faces haunted her, a constant reminder of the love they shared.
"No!"
she shouted, her voice cutting through the din of taunts.
"I won't give in to you. I will fight."
With a sudden surge of defiance, she plunged forward, pushing through the shadow's grasp. The darkness recoiled, momentarily disoriented by her sudden movement. She stumbled, heart racing, and caught herself against a cracked wall. The sensation was jarring, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the flame that had faded. Lily pressed her palms against the wall, searching for any flicker of light, any sign of her daughters. She could feel a hollow echo vibrating from her chest, a desperate rhythm that seemed to mirror the pulse of the shadows.
Come on, come on,"
she urged silently, willing the darkness to yield to her conviction. At that moment, she noticed something, an insignia etched into the high corner of the wall, half hidden by the shadows. It glimmered with a strange energy. She strained to recognize it, the weight of recognition crashing over her. It was a symbol of hope, of return. The darkness pressed down harder, lashing out with claws of despair. "This is your doom, Lily.
Surrender!"
But she wouldn't. The flame's absence stung, but she found the strength to focus on the symbol.
Memories of laughter and warmth ignited within her. "I am not afraid,"
she bellowed, and with a roar that came from the depths of her being, she thrust herself at the wall. The moment she made contact, the insignia flared to life, sending a shockwave through the shadows. The oppressive weight lifted, and the shadows shrieked in fury. A torrent of light exploded from the symbol, engulfing her in blinding brilliance that tore at the darkness like a knife through flesh. Lily felt lighter, as though the shadows were being sliced away from her very essence. She was no longer just a person or a mother, she was a force, fueled by love and fierce determination. But the pain of loss still gnawed at her. As the light cascaded around her, she desperately called out for her daughters, "Where are you?" The light enveloped her in its warm embrace, whispering promises of safety, but still the question loomed heavy in her heart. What had she unleashed? And would it be enough to bring her daughters back from the abyss? The shadows surged, angry and thrashing against the walls, clawing to regain control.
"You cannot escape the truth. You will always remain ours."
As the brilliance began to dim, Lily took a staggering step back, heart racing. Just then, she felt a familiar warmth at her side, like a memory surfacing, yet it was shadowed and fleeting.
Had she broken through? Were her daughters near? Or had she opened a door to something unimaginably dark instead?
As the reality of her precarious position set in, the shadows seemed to grow heavier, twitching with malicious intent.
What awaited her beyond the light? And would she be prepared for the truth that followed?
Lily's breath hitched as she steadied herself, grasping onto the remnants of warmth and fierce love that pulsed within her. The darkness roared around her, but the brightness pooled in her heart, a beacon she refused to ignore.
"Mommy!"
The voice coaxed, sweet and innocent, drifting through the shadows. It was her girls. That single word pulled at her heartstrings like an irresistible force. From beyond the veil of darkness, she saw shapes forming, flickering silhouettes of her children, their faces pleading with a desperate hope.
"Stay with me. I'm coming,"
she cried, pushing through the darkness, the light within her exploding like fireworks, illuminating the shadows momentarily before they tried to envelop her once more. Every step toward the silhouettes was a battle for each inch she took. The shadows clawed at her, howling with fury, desperate to pull her back into abyss. But with her heart pounding and every ounce of her being aligned with her daughter's safety, she surged forward. Suddenly, the faces of her children emerged from the swirling mist, not the nightmarish figures she had seen moments before, but pure and innocent.
"Mommy, come play with us."
They called again, but their voices carried the weight of longing, a sorrow hidden thinly behind shimmering smiles. Tears streamed down her face.
"I will. Let us go home, my loves."
She extended her arms, a mother's call echoing deep within the heart of the shadows. In that moment, as her fingers reached for theirs, the brightness flickered and crackled around them.
"You can't take them!"
The shadows screamed, fury morphing into desperation.
"They belong to us."
"No!" she shouted back, her voice solid like stone.
"They are mine."
With every declaration, the light glowed stronger, cutting through the darkness like a knife, fracturing the hold her children had on it, reclaiming them. A rift opened before her, and in a blinding explosion, the world around her fractured like glass, shards of despair falling away alongside the shadows. Breathless, Lily fell forward into the warmth of her children's embrace, a whirlpool of love pulling her back to reality. But then the darkness lurked at the edge of her vision, clawing desperately, fracturing back into shape.
"We will never release you,"
it hissed, the cold edge of its voice chilling her soul. Around them, the fabric of their reality shimmered and wavered. Vibrant colors flickered, and she feared for a moment they would fade once more. But as Lily held her daughters tight, she pressed the memories of joy deep into her heart. Face paint at birthday parties, popcorn fights, bedtime stories, and repeated her mantra. Love conquers all. Love conquers all. The light wrapped around them like a cocoon, a protective barrier against the dark. "We can face anything together," she whispered fervently to her girls. But the darkness lashed out violently, twisting and thrashing, desperate to reclaim its grip, hungry for destruction. It roared, sending a wave of visceral fear that rattled her bones.
"No more!"
Lily shouted, grounding herself.
"I choose my family. I will not be a pawn in your game."
With those words, her heart ignited into a blazing inferno. Light erupted from within her, expanding infinitely outward, pushing against the encroaching pillars of shadow that sought to drag her into an endless void. The shadows shrieked, their rage a cacophony of anguish that filled every corner of her being, yet she could feel their hold weakening. A flash of brilliant light enveloped them, and as the darkness writhed in pain, Lily felt a sudden pull as if everything was collapsing around her, pulling towards a singular point of brightness, the doorway back to her world.
"Hold on tight,"
Lily cried, anchoring her arms around her daughters. With one final push of strength, she leaped into the light. The world erupted in a conflagration of color and light. An immense wave of warmth engulfed her, erasing every ounce of darkness that had sought to claim them. As the light slowly faded, Lily found herself collapsed on the floor of her living room, gasping for breath.
The
sunlight poured in through the windows, illuminating the chaos surrounding her. Scattered toys, crayon drawings on the wall, remnants of laughter still lingering in the air.
"Mommy!"
The sound was familiar, so sweet. She looked up to see her daughters sitting together on the floor, their faces radiating with innocence and joy. Heart racing, she rushed to them and enveloped them in her embrace, tears pouring out, a symphony of relief coursing through her. "I thought I lost you," she murmured, choking on the weight of her fears transformed into profound gratitude. Her girls giggled, pressing against her as if handing her pieces of their love, and she tightened her arms around them, shielded in their warmth. From somewhere deep inside, she felt the weight of what had happened dissipate. The darkness no longer a vicious threaded companion murmuring doubts, it had lost its grip. She would always protect them, always fight for them. In that moment, a sense of resolution settled in her heart. They had won. The path ahead wasn't paved with certainty, it was filled with challenges, memories to heal, and love to nurture. But together, they would face whatever came next. With a determined heart, she whispered, "We will always be together." And outside, on the now quiet streets filled with sunlight, life continued on, full of hope, laughter, and promise. Now, dear friends, if you've made it through this journey, take a moment to support what you love. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm that helps us grow.
Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending.
And wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world.